Welcome and thanks for joining us for this fourth industry series webcast presented by Open Table. Today we'll be speaking to some marketing professionals about the impacts that COVID-19 has had on the restaurant industry, the current state of play. We'll be looking at the forthcoming Mother's Day and how this year is going to be different, of course, to every other year before that, and hopefully different to every other year to come as well. And then towards the end, we'll get into the third part of this webcast, looking at how restaurants can reopen their doors coming out of their shutdown status, their hibernation, if you like, and look at some strategies and some best practice, some ideas from the team that we can perhaps take back to our venues and use to maximise our opportunity when we do come out of this. So my name's Tim. I've been with Open Table for 8 years, and I work with our restaurants, helping them every day to get the most out of our marketing and our products to obviously drive value into their business. And I'm pleased to be joining you today. In our series so far, we've had the likes of Sven Almenning and Shane Delia joining us to discuss how they've been approaching this crisis in their businesses. We had the team from KPMG come and talk about the government stimulus package and how restaurants and restaurant operators can survive these times with the financial support that was available. We looked at the very important state of mental health, not only in the industry generally, but how people are feeling now. And we had some great resources there as well. But today we're joined by a number of panelists who are going to help us talk about more from a marketing and a consultancy perspective. So I'm joined by Craig McIndoe and Alex Adams from Darling Crackles. They're a digital agency focusing on consultancy and marketing and operations, and also Michelle Mason. So we'll start with Michelle. We'll allow Michelle to introduce herself. She's from Social Tap. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about Social Tap?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, guys. Yeah, so Social Tap, we're an agency. We sort of specialise in hospitality, tourism and food and beverage. And we work with businesses around the country and internationally from Noosa. So we have a real mix of clients. We started in pubs and then grew into restaurants and food and beverage, and then into tourism. And then, now we're basically offering, I suppose, a lot of predominantly digital services across sort of brand strategy as well as sort of end-to-end marketing as well.
Great. And moving over to you, Alex. Alex, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about Darling Crackles, and then we'll move over to Craig after that.
Yeah, sure. So for the last 10 years, I've had an online media publication called eatdrinkplay.com, and also an events business called Secret Foodies that does events across the East Coast. And a year ago, Craig and I joined forces to start Darling Crackles, which is a hospitality-based marketing agency. And I'm the Ms. Darling, and he's the Crackles. And we're really passionate about working with hospitality, cafes, restaurants, bars, pubs, to really deliver marketing solutions that actually get ROI and get results for our clients.
And Craig, your background, you've got a strong background in the industry itself. So back of house, front of house, and now from that consultancy standpoint. So you want to tell us a little bit about where you came from and what you're doing today with Darling Crackles and other initiatives?
Yeah, so I'm the venue, sort of, I guess, the representative of Darling Crackles, or the Crackles in Darling Crackles. I've opened 50 hospitality businesses. I've owned and run everything from catering companies, coffee carts, multi-site venues. I've run 18 to 20 businesses for other people. I'm also sort of a pretty awarded chef. So I've just about done it all as far as the hospitality industry is concerned. And in my last business I owned, I sort of realised, there's not really enough information about actually how to market your business properly. And so that's really when I joined forces with Alex. And since then it's been all go. And then 2020 was supposed to be this amazing year, and we had all these people ready to open their doors, and now they're not.
It's certainly been one of a kind, and nothing like we've ever seen before in this industry in Australia, of course, and globally. And the current state of the restaurant industry, we're really seeing a new normal for more than a month now, and restaurants have closed. Some have still got some sort of activity in terms of delivery and takeaway. Some have changed and pivoted towards selling even products and groceries that people can come and pick up. We've seen Shane Delia a couple of weeks ago talking with us about an initiative there where they've got ready cooked meals going out from their kitchens as well. So staying with you, Craig, what types of approaches have you seen towards marketing, particularly at the moment?
Well, it seems that really those people who, in these situations, it's really where your database and where your social reach really come to the fore. Because without that, you just have you've got nothing you can do, right? So we've got everybody that we work with has got sort of reasonably sized databases, and we also do a lot of social pushing out with paid socials and also organic socials. And it seems that those two things really, if you've got good reach with them at the moment, you've got good community interaction. We're seeing some people develop businesses, like Shane has done, to that really they will carry into the future. So when they open their doors again, they'll have a meal box business going forward.
Yeah, and Michelle, in Noosa, particularly in that market, how have you seen things moving there? What was it like initially, and how have operators sort of settled on what's working now as best as possible?
Yeah, it's interesting that from that fateful Monday where everything sort of shut down and everyone realised it was probably happening a little bit quicker than we expected. I think the main thing that's really happened is that everyone's obviously sat down and looked at what they think they can make work, and that actually changes every few days. Not just in Noosa and obviously venues beyond Noosa as well, but I think, to the industry's credit, they've all sort of sat down and go, okay, how are we going to shift, and let's give it a go. And then I suppose the other thing, and to that point we were saying, I think the key is that there's a whole bunch of businesses out there who do have active social and who do have databases, but there are a whole lot of hospitality businesses out there as well who just relied on foot traffic, and so for them it's been a really big shift to understand, okay, well, how do I get my digital presence up to scratch? And it's a really steep learning curve. At the same time, they're under enormous pressure within their business to shift and pivot the business. They're actually also gaining new skills and also sort of on the back foot a little bit in relation to the marketing side from a digital perspective. So the last few weeks have been as much about how do I get the product and service right, and how do I adjust that, whether it be heat and eat, takeaway, valet takeaway, whatever the options are that they've gone with. And then it's the other side of how do I get this message out there. And so that, having both of those challenges at the same time has certainly put a lot of businesses under pressure, and some of them have obviously opted to shut the doors until they can come back, and they can do so comfortably or confidently, and others are just adjusting every day basically, and then sort of just trialing new things.
Yeah. And Alex, from your perspective, you're seeing similar things, and your clients coming to you looking for assistance in different ways. What's proven to be effective for the restaurants that you work with?
I think when it first happened, there was quite a scramble for people to do takeaway. And then very quickly, a lot of venues have realised that the margins are quite tight on takeaway, the average order of like $30, $40. So a lot of them have started doing the meal boxes, which I think is a brilliant idea. And as Michelle and Craig have mentioned, this is probably something that they'll look to do after all of this. But I think from a media perspective, like I know from Eat, Drink, Play, we've got a live rolling list of what restaurants and venues are doing and how they're changing and pivoting. And I've noticed from a media perspective as well, the landscape has been really supportive. A lot of the publications are doing everything that they can to try and support the industry. There's also been some great initiatives. We started an initiative here in Australia called Eat Alone Together, which was great, encouraging people to order takeaway from their favourite restaurants and connect with someone on a Zoom call, trying to keep people, connected and battle things like loneliness and depression, as well as helping restaurants as well. So everyone in the industry, not just the restaurants and the actual venues, I feel like everyone else around it, even Open Table and what you guys are doing, everyone who's slightly related to the hospitality industry, it has been really banding together and do everything that they can. And that's what I've really noticed.
Yeah. And we're coming up towards Mother's Day. Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
Sorry. There's a slide here which has the current opportunities. Is that live? Yeah, it looks to me that for the people that are watching, it seems that some of them may or may not know what the sort of current opportunities are, and it looks like that to me that the current opportunities are takeaway, delivery, some kind of supermarket, and whether that's delivered or not. I mean, I know that there's been some people. Nell Restaurant actually has been quite successful in doing a gourmet box where they do $130 and a whole lot of gourmet products get delivered. And then there's obviously the heat and eat options as well. So, and also gift cards. Gift cards, it seems to me, will be a bit of a hump, and people that will be emotional for about a month. And then it seems to me that then you have to really sort of get your business properly entrenched in, am I doing takeaway? I know there's some people that have done takeaway really well, and some people are actually, booming with takeaway, but those are mostly the brands that already have good presence. And also there are people that have gone, okay, right, well, what is it that I need to get out of this to make my business go forward? And they, they're getting on a couple of the channels. So they're basically maximising the amount of channels they've got for collecting people. So those people who don't have a social presence and don't have a big database are going to all your platforms that do delivery and basically saying, well, they have the reach, and yes, I might pay a bit more for it, but if I don't have the reach, then that's what I need, right? And so those people are looking at it and going, okay, can I get some volume so I actually keep my people employed to keep my business open for the short to medium term? Sorry, I interrupted, but I thought it was a valid, important point.
No, it's absolutely perfect. And look, that leads into an opportunity that we've got coming up in Mother's Day, and we sort of introduced that at the start of this session. Mother's Day is traditionally one of the biggest days of the year for restaurants, if not the biggest in some venues. This year's obviously going to be hugely different, but you touched on those services and opportunities that restaurants are having now in terms of delivery, in terms of doing boxes. And we were discussing earlier, I got an email from a local restaurant near me advertising their Mother's Day high tea offering as a delivery product. So what do you see as being the opportunity there? And I think you really touched on it all there for people who might be dialed in thinking, well, what can I do? I haven't been able to do much. This Mother's Day opportunity is real in terms of restaurants being able to pivot and change if they've got an audience to talk to. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah. The last one, I want to go back. The last one I missed. So there's a big area that I missed talking about, which was live cooking classes. A lot of people are actually taking their restaurant out into the home, and I know Colin Fasnich has done it. I'm actually doing, not that I'm a restaurant, but I'm actually doing a person's 50th on the weekend where we're doing a Zoom cooking class. The box being delivered to all of this girl's friends, and then they're going to do a cooking class for an hour, and then I hop off the Zoom and then they'll continue the party. So there seems to me a number of opportunities for Mother's Day. I mean, there's the obvious ones. If all the add-ons you can actually, that the restaurant can actually bring, like you can do gourmet boxes, you can do the presents, you can do the actual meals going out. You could even do you could actually even do a Zoom sort of cooking class with your mum. Like, you could buy your mum lunch with Colin Fasnich, and he could he would cook with your mum, and I'm sure that would be great fun.
Absolutely. And, it's something that cropped up for me personally the other day. I was thinking, well, hang on a minute. I can get away with not going to a restaurant for a little while in my normal daily life, but we come up to these sort of moments in time where they're really special. We want to do something special. And you think, well, what am I going to do for Mother's Day? And so it's really great to hear those examples. And perhaps we can throw back to Michelle just to elaborate on what you're seeing in terms of Mother's Day coming up.
Yeah, and a lot of what Craig was just saying, that whole, getting people together and using Zoom, which is a really nice way, or Zoom or equivalent, or House Party or whatever the app is. But really getting to that point of pre-ordering and making it really easy. So it's a banquet, or it's and they still allow for dietaries, but it's sort of like, something quite special. And also what we're seeing is some collaborations in this space as well. So the businesses actually being able to leverage each other's networks. Where they might be doing a Mother's Day lunch or a package or an offer of some kind, they might be doing it with a wine partner or a beverage partner, or different local producers that they're trying to tie into it. So it's not just about them; they're actually all together going out with an offer I suppose that they can leverage each other's networks and also add extra value to and something unique to the experience. So it's not just our menu delivered to your house. It's coming up with a unique angle, and sometimes collaborations allow you to do that more easily.
It's been a fantastic time for collaborations in terms of, in my experience, I think I've never seen a time when the community has been so important. And I think that people are really feeling the community is super important. So you're actually seeing a lot of people, a lot of restaurants are joining with other local suppliers, and they may make a little bit of a margin on it, but I'm sure they don't make a whole lot of a margin. But the whole idea really is to try and keep the community connected and keep people supporting restaurants. And I think it's been a really lovely feel in the hospitality game. And the other part of it is that it's really sort of driven social media to be back to what social media really was, where people started connecting on social media. It's not really as much pretty pictures as now. People are really trying to bring the emotion of their business out and actually engage with the customers.
Yeah. And Alex, that engagement, and I think Craig was talking about it earlier, it may not necessarily be hugely profitable to sustain a business, but at least it keeps something happening. But the long-term effect of these type of initiatives now, that's going to be really valuable to restaurants when they're starting to come back out, to have kept that communication running with their diners, right, Alex?
Yeah, and I think there's 2 points. Just quickly on collaboration again, you've still got time. So if you are a restaurant out there and you're putting together a package for Mother's Day, now's a great opportunity to reach out to maybe an awesome local florist or a boutique chocolate place or someone else, but also not only have a look at the quality of their product and does it fit your brand, but also have a look at their reach. So if you don't have a big email database or you don't have a big social media following, this could be a good opportunity for you to maybe tap into someone else's, and likewise an opportunity for you to promote their business. So have a little think outside the box for collaborations. In terms of engagement, sorry, you were saying, Tim?
I was just going to add into that, to splice it in, and you can carry on. But in terms of any Mother's Day offerings that you've seen from any restaurants that have already got something in the pipes that you can tell us about?
Well, we do some work for the Sam Prince Hospitality Group, which is Indu, Kid Kyoto and Mexico. They're all CBD restaurants in Sydney, and they're just about to launch their Mother's Day offering, which will include this amazing meal box. You can either choose for 2 or for 4 people, and includes a couple of bottles of wine, a beautiful meal that you can, it's already pre-prepared, you can put it together, and the option of having an incredibly big bunch of flowers delivered to mum from Settle Petal, which is a local Sydney florist, and they will also be promoting the whole experience, not just the florals, but the whole experience for them as well. So I think that's kind of a good example. And I know you mentioned, Tim, someone's doing a high tea, which I also thought was a great idea.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just one near me, and I mean, thankfully, because I was racking my brains, like, what do I do? What do the boys and I do for Mum this Mother's Day, right? And so now we've got something which is great. And look, it's probably worth calling out now. We're going to move into some more questions around coming out of this. You know, how do restaurants reopen their doors and get the most out of it? But before we do that, we're going to launch a poll. And I just want to bring our audience aware of that. We've got a live poll that will appear shortly. So a couple of questions there. Please do pick up on that. We'll come back to that poll at the end. But yeah, anything further to add in terms of Mother's Day and then leading that into coming out of this? Now, we don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel will commence, but we're starting to hear now that some of the states are going to look at allowing people to gather together a little bit more. So we're ever hopeful. So I suppose, where does that lead in terms of starting to get doors reopened?
I think that with Mother's Day, oh, sorry, Alex, go. I was just thinking with Mother's Day, we've spoken, a lot about but it's also another opportunity for people to connect. And obviously, Craig mentioned, gift vouchers are a no-brainer. Now that's an easy gift, but it's also an opportunity for business to be, a competition or promotion leading up to it that could actually be a database competition or something like that, where win mum, post-COVID celebration or whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to use that language, but kind of coming up with an and actually get people tell us why mum deserves, and then to use that as a database, either to just sort of be almost doing some marketing activity, but also having an opportunity to go out to your audience as well. We've got some, fine dining restaurants we work with and we're consulting with who have completely shut their doors. They are not doing takeaway. And it's, there are opportunities for them to still engage, and people are dreaming of coming back to them. So it's a really nice way when the people have got a connection with them and they are dreaming of coming back to that place for lunch. It could be a nice way to see that opportunity as well.
Yeah. I think the connection might have been just a little bit broken up there, but just to sort of recap there, Michelle, really talking about keeping that connection going, having something to talk to your audience about, and then using that as a springboard so that when you do have a date that you can reopen your doors, you've got that audience engaged, you've been doing something, investing in your audience ahead of time, and that might be a Mother's Day offering that really isn't going to make any profit for you in the short term, but gives you something to keep talking to people about. So I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but unfortunately, we're dealing with working from home, all of us, and these are some of the challenges. But look, let's get in. We'll have a few more questions here talking about reopening the doors, and I think this is the discussion point that a lot of restaurants are going to be mulling over. So thinking about what's the landscape look like on the other side of this. Am I going to be opening my entire restaurant? Or am I going to have some sort of other controls in place? Will my staff need to wear face masks? What does that look like? And so for a lot of restaurants, they'll be thinking about those things now. And I suppose we can only speculate what that landscape will be, but perhaps with a few different ideas we can put out there. So we might circle back around to you, Craig, and just see what your thoughts are. We're expecting patronage will take time to return to pre-COVID levels. God knows how long, hopefully as short as possible. But what do you recommend that operators be doing now when they're thinking about their communications and their product offering? It's a really broad question, so we'll just give you the chance to put your thoughts down as to what you think the operators should be looking at.
Well, I think there are a number of things. I think the first thing is that whatever it looks like on the other side, the business really needs to think about what am I delivering to the customer? And that's the same question they need to be doing about takeaway. Because you saw, if we take a step back, as soon as everybody started panicking, they started doing takeaway and delivery, it was all about the restaurant. And what they really need to think about is what are we actually providing to the customer, right? And if you start thinking about that, that is what drives your business. So when you say, okay, right, I mean, it's likely that we'll open up with 50 to 60% capacity, and that'll be driven by bookings. So there'll be a lot of work for Open Table and people like that to make sure that they've got only a certain amount of bookings allowed. And so restaurants need to work out, how do I create comfort and a surety that my people are going to feel safe? And that may mean going and using, prepay, some tap and go, like some technology that, so you don't have to have too much interaction with your server. It may mean that you just have your tables spaced out a bit more. It may mean that you have a bit of a grab and go at the front. My fundamental thought is always to try and make sure that whatever transaction you're going to make with a customer, that you collect their data. So if you're doing something at the moment, if someone's been supporting you at the moment for meal boxes or takeaway or whatever, if you really should keep thinking, okay, these people have supported me now. When I reopen, I should be giving them a special offer to come back in. And so I really need to make sure that I get their details up front, right? And that's sort of my thoughts on it. I think that in some areas people will come in hard. I think people are going to miss their local cafe where I live in Manly, and I know that the local sort of Saturday, Sunday cafe will just get absolutely hammered. And so there's going to be a real challenge around trying to keep the distance between people. Whereas your sort of more fine dining restaurants will find it easier to manage, but they'll really need to push people to come in.
Yeah. And Alex, anything to add to that commentary there?
Yeah, look, I agree with the speculation with Craig. We've been talking about this a lot, and I think that they are going to come back with a limited capacity. So it's almost reverting back to the communication that you were speaking to a couple of months ago. We're still open, but here's what we're doing to keep you safe. Because even if people are allowed to go out there and start eating in restaurants and cafes again, you might find that, I think initially everyone's going to go out and get really excited, but there's still going to be some people who are a little bit uncomfortable going out and eating in group environments. So it's things around, we've put spacing in our tables. We've got stations at, hand sanitizer stations everywhere. We're changing our menu to individually plated and share style. Things like that, I think you're going to still have to communicate that with people as well. Perhaps when you're, from a marketing perspective, when you're communicating your offering, maybe condense the menu and just have exciting items on there as well, like your favourite items that people know and love. That could be a really good way, not only because you might not have the resources if you've had to let people go, but it might be also a great way to ensure that every order is a hit. Craig mentioned collecting data, which I completely believe in as well. But all these people that you've been delivering to, you've got their physical address. So, send them an email with a special offer. Great. Send them like a nice postcard that you might even just write their name on, Dear John, and say, thank you so much for supporting us. We've reopened the doors. A drink on us or a cocktail on us when you come back in. Just bring this with you. Invite your customers back to see you personally, I think would be great because you've already collected all of that data. And then from an events perspective, because I know a lot of restaurants out there will, we're probably going to miss out on end of financial year. Christmas parties are going to be really questionable. I don't know whether we're going to see people wanting to do those big 400-person Christmas parties if you're a large company, but I think you don't want to miss out on that. So perhaps your communication around that is, you haven't seen your friends in the office for a while. Why don't you get together at smaller groups and talk about how you're going to keep smaller groups safe in your venues perhaps? So maybe it's like rather than doing a big corporate thing, it's a team dinner or a team lunch and target maybe groups of 10 or 20 as opposed to bigger groups would sort of be my main advice.
Yeah. Now, for our viewers, just to interject quickly, the poll should still be live, so please do get your answers in for that poll. And Alex, you touched on something there in terms of maybe suggesting that venues look at their menus to perhaps reduce those, condense them down, remove things that maybe aren't necessarily always a hit, and maybe they're not necessarily the most profitable items as well. So that's both a smart move in terms of efficiencies, but it's also helping to make sure that venues can maximise revenue, because assuming we're running at 50% and assuming that a restaurant can fill that 50%, they will need to find ways to increase average check and to perhaps turn diners quicker, all of those things. So the efficiencies are really important as well. and probably something that Craig would talk to a little bit more. But in terms of website, so what venues need to be doing on your website? I believe you had a slide there that we can look at with regards to paid and social advertising, what venues can do with their website coming out of this as well.
Oh yeah, we just basically did I push this? There it is there. So yeah, I mean, you really got to look at the channels that you're going to distribute, to let people know that you're open. And obviously the we focus on is database. It's one of those things that is not very sexy, and people we find, I mean, we track everything that we do. So during this time, we've tracked website sales, database sales, paid social sales, organic social sales, because we just, all technology can allow you to do that. And then we see that our certain EDMs really drive, though they don't feel sexy. We have a lot of people say, look, I don't really do EDMs because they don't work. But in terms of selling stuff, they absolutely work. Paid social is also very good. We're finding not only does paid social help get people into the business, but it also helps with your interaction. We're finding we get a lot of information from people. So if we're talking about opening up again, we should actually be engaging people and saying, this is Pilu restaurant or whatever. What of our dishes would you like to see on the menu? And engaging customers like that in a real engaging way, then people will then go, I really love that your suckling pig or whatever, right? And if you create engagement like that, that's when people will like, well, I've actually had something to do with the new menu. I'm going to come in. So it's, super effective. Organic has been really, for those people who've actually put effort into the organic socials and actually answered questions, done videos, really engaged. Like I've seen more photos of staff and chefs and behind the scenes than I've ever seen, which is fantastic. So those people that put the effort into that, I think that will really help them moving forward. And then the website, you really have to just basically hit it front on. So your website really has to be about what we're doing to create a safe, comfortable, warm environment for you to come back to.
And the call to action is going to be really important on all of those media spaces, if you like, because potentially coming back, the restaurant table and seat is going to be scarce to a degree because your restaurant is not as big as it was before. So as a restaurateur, really getting that engagement, encouraging people to make the commitment to come in. Certainly from an open table perspective, we know that people who make a reservation at a restaurant spend a lot more than people who walk in. So, and maybe this is sort of a bit open-ended, but an opportunity for Michelle to perhaps give some commentary from your experience in hospitality and media with those calls to action to get people from that digital experience through the doors of a restaurant coming out of this. Have you got some tips that you can offer?
It's interesting. The call to action is obviously, but what we find is the biggest barrier is not making it easy for people to actually go from A to B. So we actually, and what I mean by that is no matter which way people find your business, it's really important to then actually be the customer and go, okay, if I want that information and I'm coming to you via Instagram, if I want that information, I'm coming via Facebook or Google My Business or organic search straight through my website. When I actually go through each of those steps, how do I go from interested to actually making a reservation? And we've even seen it at the moment with how people haven't necessarily kept all of those channels up to date. Because I know it's hard, but that put a post out on Facebook or on Instagram saying, hey, we're and we're doing takeaway, but then you don't know unless you've seen that post on how to get there. So it's not updating the link in the bio exactly to the right link, and the website, making it really clear. It's very simple. I want to do business with you. How do I get there? So yes, it's the call to action, which is book now to make sure that you've got a seat and we look forward to welcoming you. But it's just making sure there's no barriers from that decision or interest point to reservation, no matter which channel they through.
Yeah, thanks to that. Unfortunately, we are getting a little bit of a choppy connection there from Michelle. So apologies for the connection troubles, but I think we were able to catch that for the most part. So yeah, the call to action.
My apologies.
That's okay. Getting people from that digital experience through the front doors. So yeah, Craig, you were going to add something, please.
It's a super valid point, because you also have had a lot of people saying, okay, right, we're going to do takeaway. Here's our phone number. And like, if you've tried to ring those people, if anybody knows, if you're half busy, you're not going to get onto them, or, so what you really need to do is actually think through your processes, no matter what you do. It's really important that if you go, right, I'm going to do takeaway, yes, for the first day, you might have your phone number up there, but then you have to have some sort of online presence so that it's easy for a person to come in and say, right, here's my money. It's easy for me to pay. This is what I want. This is my address, and you won't get it wrong, because, how many times are you on a phone and, technology now, we can hardly hear something Michelle speaking, but if you miss someone's address, then there's this bad feeling between you and the restaurant, right? So the call to action is, I always look at it and go, okay, what's in it for me? And the biggest part of marketing is saying, from a consumer's perspective, what am I offering the consumer? And one of the biggest things in any business is make it easy for people to do business with me. So accept the credit cards, make sure it's easy for me to click the right buttons. Oh, yeah, I can see it's really clear there on the website. Oh, okay, you're delivering to, North Wednesday. That's when I want it. Here's my listings. There I go. Bang, done, over. And, that's how companies like Uber and all those companies have gone so well, because they've basically made it easy for people to do business. And that's fundamentally what we're about anyway.
Yeah. So the results of our poll are in. So we asked the question, when doors reopen, what are you investing in to reach diners? And we had 80% selected email to subscribers, 60% would use Facebook restaurant reservations networks, Instagram and others 40%. Interestingly, no one is looking at investing in PPC and digital advertising and sponsorships. And that probably makes sense that, what our audience are looking at doing is making sure that every dollar that they spend coming out of this is having a return on investment. And it's good to see that that's where that's at. But yeah, any comments on that before we start to sort of wind things up a little bit?
Well, from my perspective, PPC is really more of an events-based, a long-term advertising thing. So I would agree with what people are saying. I would say that, you want stuff that I can send out today and I know I can see a return straight away.
And I think from it's no surprise that email is number one, because they're the people who have opted in to hear from you. And also it doesn't cost anything to send out the email, unless you use a different platform, but you can contact them relatively inexpensively. Whereas if you're going to post on Instagram and Facebook in order to be seen, you're going to have to spend some money. So I think that is probably going to be the first port of call for a lot of restaurants. And I would agree with that.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll start to wrap things up a little bit here. Michelle, did you have any final comments with regards to the investment there? You saw the numbers there, people coming in. So anything further to add to the comments?
No, I think that probably makes sense. The guys have just said. I think that the key is the right digital platform. So Craig's saying the website, but also a great user experience, and also how you own the data, as Craig was saying, is really critical in accessing that, building that yourself as well. So I think that's going to be important. These will be the channels to drive people through once they get there.
I'm sorry, I may need to step in there, Michelle. We really are struggling with the audio there coming from you, so I do apologise. But look, I want to say thanks so much for joining the call and for your contribution. As we sort of wrap up here to those that are online, we want to say thank you for attending. To help restaurants reopen, Open Table has introduced the Open Door program, and for our partners and restaurateurs watching today, please do reach out to us to learn about that, about how we can help bring your restaurant back to life as well. But I just want to give Alex, firstly with you, some opportunity to give some closing comments succinctly, what restaurants should be doing now, what they should be looking to do as they come out of this.
Well, we've shared a couple of different resources there. So the current opportunities, we also have put a quick PDF together that we can share with everyone afterwards as well, which is 10 tips on how to tackle takeaway during COVID. You also see that little slide there on the different avenues to be able to promote yourself from a marketing perspective. So website, paid, organic, social, database. We're here to help. Craig and I are so passionate about the industry. Feel free to email us or reach out. We're happy to have a quick chat with any restaurant out there. Anyone needs some help, because there is a lot to navigate. And I think if you need to start planning now. You don't want to be, the government announces you can open up your restaurant and then scrambling to try and come up with this strategy. Now's the time to work out what you're going to do when you reopen the doors, whether you're currently open or you've closed and you want to reopen. Now's the time to think about that strategy, and we're here to help.
Yeah, and we'll be sending that PDF out in the wrap-up email, so our audience will be able to get that. Craig, we'll hand over to you for the final comments from yourself.
I just think this is just something that most people don't do, but I really loved Michelle's comments about running a competition. But if you're going to run a competition for your Mother's Day or whatever, I want to illustrate how we think differently about this sort of thing. A lot of people would run a competition and then there would be one winner. For us, we would always have everybody as the winner, and we'd use it to drive extra traffic. So as an example, we ran a social competition, not too dissimilar to this. We had 3,000 entries and only one person won, but we sent out 2,999 emails saying, congratulations, you have won. You didn't win the major prize, but you did win 2 free cocktails at all of our venues. So that drove $9,000 in net sales in the first week after it. So there's plenty of people think that they know about marketing. So what we want you to do is we want you to focus on getting your restaurant up, being as good as you can be. And if you need a hand with anything, reach out to us.
All right. Well, thanks very much. We'll finish it up there. Thanks very much to our audience as well. We want to continue to provide you with meaningful information. We're going to continue doing these sessions. If you haven't caught all of the sessions to date, you can certainly get access to those, and we'll be sending out links for you to do that. So thanks once again for staying on and enjoying the call. Alex, Michelle, and Craig, thank you also for your time today. It's been highly valuable, and I'm sure our audience have really found some great tips in there that are going to help them come out of this fighting.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.